Hello everyone, hope all of you are doing great. So the first two episodes for The Lord of the Rings, The Power of the Ring have been dropped on Amazon Prime, and I just finished watching the first episode. I'm still to watch the second episode. I am not someone who enjoys binge watching a lot, and I just thought I should share my thoughts about you for the first episode. Now before I start talking about this show, disclaimer, I have only read The Hobbit and I have not read any other book by J.R.R. Tolkien. I have seen the films by Peter Jackson and I do think they were great. So that's my exposure to the world created by the great author J.R.R. Tolkien. Talking about the first episode, I loved the way it opened. It talked about something which I had always wondered, though it didn't give any answers to that question, but it definitely did bring that idea on the table. I have always wondered that how come kids so instinctively become so destructive and naturally are okay with hurting others, and that is something which is shown right in the first scene of this episode, and that's the reason I was immediately hooked on to the series. There was an indirect comparison between darkness and evilness in the kids and how a stone dropped in the water can only sink, and I thought that was done really well. Very interestingly, it did not present the idea in the most violent way possible, like it generally happens in the world of The Song and Ice and Fire. There was no blood involved. We didn't see any dead bodies of any animals or anything else, but the idea was presented on the table, and I really appreciated this show for such a presentation of such an idea. Forceful violence on screen is something which is a huge put off for me now. Beyond that, what I really enjoyed in this episode was the old school treatment of jump scares. I don't want to spoil things for you. You know how they used to show that there's something stationary in the background. It's not in focus, but it's there. But then it moves, and then you become conscious of its presence, and then the whole thing changes, and the world goes upside down, and all of that. They have adopted that kind of treatment, and it was such a pleasure to watch. To me, metaphorically, what it says is that things are always around you. You may or may not be aware of their presence, but they're still there. The darkness, the light, everything is all around you, and the thing either decides to make an appearance or you notice and then you become aware of the presence. And that's the idea I think the makers were probably trying to portray. The visuals and the art, the sets were something which are really well done, but they did not fascinate me the way the art and the sets of the Wheel of Time did. I know there was a lot of criticism thrown on Wheel of Time for the kind of visual presentation that was put forward, but what I saw was that how the designing was done, how things were created, taking references from so many different sources. In this show, we have so much of art already that exists for the Middle Earth and the worlds created by J.R.R. Tolkien. So there is lesser mystery in that way, but it's pretty well done. It's something which we have seen in illustrations and in other forms so many times before that it doesn't strike you as something which is completely novel and something that you have not seen before. The House of Dragon is also on. We are getting weekly episodes every Monday here in India. And I watched the first episode. I saw that there was some forced violence again, which didn't really make any difference to the plot, but still they were putting it because after Game of Thrones, I think they believe that this is what sells. And they were trying to push those ideas again in the second episode as well. I didn't like how that second episode opened, and that was the time when I decided I'm going to drop this series. I'm not going to watch it. If it disturbs me and upsets me, there's no way I'm going to invest my time watching this thing. And today I came across this article published by The Guardian, which says the Rings of Power so astounding that it makes House of the Dragon look amateur. And I was really happy to read that because it actually is more layered. This first episode that I saw, it actually is more layered, and things are not just thrown in your face in their most repulsive or raw form. They're nuanced and there is some amount of sophistication to them. Now it's inevitable, this show will be compared to Peter Jackson's films and also to Wheel of Time. Peter Jackson's film because that was the most successful adaptation of Tolkien's works ever, keeping The Hobbit aside, but the others, and The Wheel of Time because that was another big show by Amazon Prime. What I felt, I know it's probably unfair to make this comparison as of now because I've just seen one episode, but I felt that the gravity that the films by Peter Jackson had, this show didn't have that kind of weight, that kind of gravity as yet. And if we compare to The Wheel of Time, this world, this presentation looks richer than that. The visual aesthetic, the kind of look and feel of this show has its trademark Amazon Prime look to it. Things are a little brighter. The colors fall in a certain spectrum and tonality. Some people might argue that things look very flat. I think they have listened to the criticism that Wheel of Time got and they have worked on it. But I can also understand they want to show you the world differently. They do not want to blindly copy the style that was adopted for Game of Thrones and which is now being followed by the House of Dragon as well. So I don't really have much of a problem with it. I am someone who does not mind poor CGI or poor set designs in execution if the story is being portrayed in its complete emotional form, if the actors are emoting well, if I'm able to feel the story and understand the ideas that are being pushed by the filmmakers. For me, that show or a film is a success. And after the first episode, I think I'm definitely looking forward to the rest of the series. Alright guys, so did you watch this first episode and probably the second episode? I'm just gonna start watching this second episode. So by the time you watch this video, I think I must have watched the second episode already. So how did you guys like it? Do let me know. Are you looking forward to it? Any complaints? Anything that you liked in particular? Let's discuss that. And until next time, keep watching, keep reading, keep listening. Cheers.